Sorry, just admitting the last few people and then, all right. I think we are good to get started. Good evening and welcome, families. My name is Anita Arjoyan and I am the GATE teacher specialist here with the Equity Access and Family Engagement Department. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Before we begin, I do want to give our interpreters the option to, or I want the interpreters to present themselves and then make their option available. So if I could please have Ms. Vardoui Lafyan, our Armenian interpreter. Ms. Lafyan, you're muted.
Բարի երեկո ձեզ սիրելի ծնողներ, ուրախ ենք, որ միացել եք մեզ այս Gate Meeting-ի կարևոր տեղեկություններին։ Ես հայրենի թարգմանիչն եմ եւ եթե ուզում եք հայրենով լսել այս ծրագիրը, խնդրում եմ chat բաժնից ընտրեք հայերեն տարբերակը եւ սիրով կտրամադրեմ ձեզ թարգմանություն։
Thank you so much. May I please have Ms. Veronica Jenks, our Spanish translator?
Buenas tardes a todos los presentes. Mi nombre es Verónica Jenks. Voy a ser la intérprete para el idioma español. Para poder entrar al canal de español y poder ver la presentación de esta tarde, necesito ingresar al casillero del chat, encontrar mi nombre y hacerle clic al enlace para poder entrar a la presentación en español. Gracias.
Thank you. Ms. Jane Park, our Korean interpreter.
안녕하십니까. 한국어 통역인 제인팍입니다. 오늘 저녁에 프레젠테이션을 한국말로 듣기를 원하시는 분들은 대화방을 클릭하시고 그 안에 코리안 제인팍이라고 업로드되어 있는 링크를 클릭하시면 그 선으로 연결되실 수가 있습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Margaret Sargsyan, our Russian translator.
Добрый вечер, уважаемые родители и участники собрания. Меня зовут Маргарита Сарксян, я переводчик школьного округа. Если вам нужен перевод на русский язык, пожалуйста, нажмите на ссылку в чате, где указано мое имя. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you so much. With that, let's get started. I guess I should introduce everyone here. So those were our interpreters, and I also have here with us Dr. Emil Ahangarzadeh. He is the director of the Equity Access and Family Engagement Department. Additionally, I have here presenting tonight with me Ms. Danielle Fox. She is our amazing teacher specialist with the Teaching and Learning Department, and she has a lot to share about the Gifted and Talented Education Program here at GUSD. So let's get started. Tonight, we will discuss identification and student makeup. We'll talk a little bit about understanding giftedness, and then we'll talk about some the curriculum and instruction that you can expect, some district-supported events along with resources, and I'll let you know who your contacts are for your school sites. And again, rest assured, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to our GUSD website. Should you need to hop off or if you miss anything, you can always allude to this later. All right, so let's talk about program overview and identification. So as you are already aware, because your child already participated in this, GUSD emphasizes the importance of equitable access, and thus we use the NNAT, or Naglari Nonverbal Ability Test, as a universal screening tool to determine eligibility for our GATE students. So most of your students are in third grade now, and they just completed the NNAT, and identification for them happened recently for the 25-26 school year. That sounds so weird to say 25-26 school year. Yeah, so we use the NNAT test. Just a little bit of information about the NNET. It's a brief nonverbal measure of general ability, and it's administered in groups to students in K through 12 typically, but in Glendale Unified, it's for our third graders and then any new to the district 4th through 8th grade students that we have or students who are recommended. So that's most likely your kiddo falls under one of those categories. So it's a computer-based test where questions are presented one at a time and students answer the questions. There's no reading, writing, speaking involved. It's administered typically in the classroom by the teacher or perhaps by the site teacher specialist. And the qualification for your child to receive the GATE identification is for students in the 92nd percentile or above. So 92 and above gets you placement into our GUSD GATE program. And for any of our students who are borderline, there is a system in place for reviewing additional measures to ensure, again, fair and equitable access to GATE. I did want to share with you some data about the NNET scores and GATE identification across GUSD. So I have here the numbers for the universal screener since we adopted it after COVID. So you'll see our first time administering was in the 21-22 school year, and you can see the number of students that we identified. The number of students who took the test, the number of students who identified, how many of those students were English learners, and how many of those students are students with IEPs or in special education program. I think these numbers are really important to recognize, again, the importance of the universal screener. In the past, the GATE programming the GATE testing was just by recommendation, and we had a handful of students versus here, since adopting the NNET universal screener, we're able to screen all of our students starting in the 3rd grade. So that's kind of a breakdown of the students after taking the NNET, and then we have the latest information there for the 24-25 school year. And then just to further understand who our gifted students are, let me go back so I can highlight this number. So the total number of students identified this year were 383. So these numbers that we're going to look at are about students in grades 4th through 12th. So in GUSD, we have, again, 4th through 12th, a total of 2,025 students were identified with the GATE in the GATE program. Of those 2,025 students, 122 of them are English language learners. I think these numbers are amazing to recognize, where previously our English language learner students wouldn't have access to GATE testing, but here, because it's a nonverbal test, we have a lot more students identified who are English learners than we have in the past. Additionally, we have 85 students who are in the SPED program or have IEPs. And then if we look at other programs that we have, our dual language immersion students, we have 675 of our students who are also in GATE. Here's some further breakdowns looking at our gifted students by grade level. So you can see how many students are enrolled in the in each grade level, and then you can see the number of students who are identified and then a percentage. These are the numbers for 25-26, so these are flexible, as you can imagine. Some students will we'll get more students enrolled. These numbers will change, but as of right now, here's what we're working with, and I think these numbers are pretty solid. Okay, moving on, I am now going to pass it over to Ms. Danielle Fox, who will talk to you about curriculum and instruction. Oh, I lost her. 1 second, please. Oh, Miss Fox, are you here? There you are.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, we lost you for a second.
Yeah, somehow my permissions for the meet got changed to view only, so I wasn't able to do anything.
No worries, you're here now. All right, here's Miss Danielle Fox.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for carving out time this evening to learn more about what this new identification for your child as part of the gifted program means. I wanted, hello? I wanted to give you more of a broad overview since our time together tonight is short. You'll probably get a lot more information from your site or your teachers, or you can always follow up with Ms. Arjoyan or myself at a later time. But Anita, would you be so kind as to advance the slide deck, please? Thank you. So in our district, once again, I'm giving you more of a general overview. The nuances that you may see or experience with your child's teachers will be more suited to your individual child. But really, what our goal is we want to tailor our instruction to meet individual needs, which does not mean the same thing as individualized instruction, meaning that every child does not get their own pathway, so to speak. But we do really try to get to know our kids as learners, as humans, as scholars, because they come from all different cultural backgrounds, readiness levels, and willingness to learn in different situations. So our job as educators is really to try to teach up and provide those low floor, high ceiling tasks so that any child coming into a task, no matter where they're at in a readiness level, can enter with a low floor, so to speak. But if they're up for the challenge, they can take it and run with it to a high ceiling, open task type situation. So we really do try to value and plan for the diversity in our learners. And we do that through content. We do that through getting to know them as humans and, social emotionally as well. So Anita, please. Thank you. So some of the different ways that we try to support our learners in GUSD, like I mentioned, is through differentiated instruction, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. But really, as I mentioned, getting to know them as learners. And so gifted children and adults often have very high academic capabilities or potential, but that also sometimes comes with a need for extra support socially, emotionally, and with their executive skills. So for those of you who may not be familiar with what executive skills are, that is like your organization, your working memory, your response inhibition, attending to a task for a significant amount of time, staying focused, that kind of thing. And so you may, as a parent, know your child to be, really capable in one area and really focused if they're into that topic, for example, but asking them to clean their room or organize something or remember to turn something in, and it's like, they need a lot more support with that. So that's one way that we look at it from a whole child perspective, not just with the academics. So site and district opportunities might include events at your school site or district-wide events, which Anita will speak to later. And then where I come in is with the professional development of our teachers. I work alongside with teachers to help craft their differentiation skills and educate them as to how to best support their learners. And I did want to kind of give a quick shout out to all of you here on this call, because the family engagement is huge. It takes a village to support our children. So thank you once again for being here and starting your journey of learning more of how to support your kids. So if we focus purely on how can we differentiate in instruction, that can be done a lot of different ways. And to be perfectly honest, when it's done well, you might not even notice that it's being done because it can be so nuanced and feel very natural for that child. So your teacher might adjust the content that your child is learning. For example, they might ask them questions through depth and complexity, or they might accelerate their learning for an area that they already have a lot of knowledge in a little bit. They'll give them open problem solving so that they can have the opportunity to take it and run with it in a more complex way. They might give them varied assessments, give them choice in how they show what they know, or choice in the process of how they learn it. And that might include working alone. It might include working with a partner, working in small groups, and kind of intermingling those flexible groupings so that students are able to learn how to work with others, but also find their own niches and explore ways that might be comfortable for them, but then also kind of push them to that little bit more challenge. I did want to speak to the learning environment. Sometimes when we think of learning environment, we think purely physical, which definitely has a role in it. You know, how are my seats arranged? Do I have a table for small groups, etc.? But really, when we think about as scholars, as learners, we learn best when we feel safe, when we feel comfortable, when we feel like we have a relationship with our teacher, right? And so we want to craft that learning environment where all students have that supportive yet slightly challenging environment with their teacher, and they feel like they are curious and want to learn, and they are motivated to be themselves and really realize their potential. You can go ahead. Thank you. So one thing that I do want to reiterate, and you'll probably hear me say it a couple of times throughout this presentation, is giftedness is not a recipe. It is not a guarantee. Giftedness is a readiness and a potential. And so our job as the adults in their lives is to help them unlock that potential, to give them the support so that they can flourish with that ability and draw on it. So how do we help our students cross from a potential to really building that eagerness to learn, to want to excel with their readiness? And how do they go from, I'm just going to get the right answer and get straight A's, to, I want to be a scholar. I want to be a learner and be self-reflective and push myself as an intellectual. And that's kind of where we want to be, supporting them to realize their potential. So I am a educator of gifted learners. I am also a parent of gifted learners. And in my 20-something years of working with these kiddos, I have noticed that they have amazing capabilities and potential, but a lot of them also need some support with their social emotional well-being. And when I say that, there's ways that we can support them in feeling comfortable within their own skin. So how do we teach them to be flexible, to have coping strategies when things don't always go according to plan? I know that my own kiddos, sometimes if things vary from the plan, that can really throw them off their game. So how can we teach them that flexibility and, working compatibly with others and being responsible for, turning in that homework, or advocating when, hey, Miss Arjoyan, I don't understand the assignment. Like, how can I do better as a learner? And sometimes students, gifted students, tend to perseverate on perfectionism. And they have what's called an imposter syndrome in many cases, to where when we say, oh, you're so smart, you're GATE now, then if something is ever slightly challenging to them, then they have that feeling of, oh my gosh, I must not be smart after all if it's hard for me. So we as adults can help them with that power of yet. Hey, you're not expected to know everything yet. It's good that you are being challenged a little bit, or maybe you made a mistake. That's great. That means you're learning. And we want to distinguish that from becoming anxiety inducing or stressful to like, hey, that's all right. I'm a scholar, and scholars learn, and none of us are perfect. Thanks for being my slide clicker. So as I mentioned earlier, professional development is an area of my role here in the district. And so teachers are offered quite a few different professional learning workshop sessions, cohorts, in where they can deepen their knowledge as educators and hone their skills with. These are just a few examples of the topics that are offered, but really depth and complexity, how to engage their learners, how to support social emotional needs, giving voice and choice and flexibility, and differentiate in general. My apologies, my phone was dinging. Another thing that we have had the awesome opportunity of is a small group of teachers in the district have participated in 2 cohorts that I've led called the GUSD GATE Gurus. And those are year-long cohorts in where we really dig deep and explore practical strategies and how to implement some of these solid instructional pedagogical methods to support gifted learners.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. And now I'd like to talk to you about the district-supported events that you can expect to come your kiddos' way in the 25-26 school year. So one of the things that perhaps you've heard about and wondered, what is this, is Invention Convention. So we, for our students, our GATE students, host the Invention Convention. This is done with the support and guidance of a site leader. So someone at the school site, it can be the teacher specialist or it can be a teacher, supports the students to participate in our district-wide Invention Convention. And what the students do is essentially participate in a differentiated activity where they learn research skills and learn the process of inventing. They get an opportunity to participate in a hands-on experience developing something of their own, from their own brilliant minds. They have the option to work independently or in groups. And the culminating event is an opportunity where the students come together, again, district-wide, and they compete with same-age inventors. And they're recognized for their achievements. Typically, the schools start to work on Invention Convention with the kiddos in October, and the event, the culminating event where the district, where the different schools come together, typically is December. So expect this to come your kiddos' way December 2025. This is an opportunity for kids to be creative. We intellectually challenge them and academically challenge them through Invention Convention. And then in the spring, we actually just wrapped up our last artistic expression showcase yesterday. In the springtime, our students participate in the artistic expressions. It's a really engaging and creative workshop for students. Again, it's led by a site teacher. It can be sometimes the same as the Invention Convention coach, or it can be a teacher specialist or somebody else at the school site who works with the students to interpret works of art and create their own art. This one is actually our second year doing this, but it's already become like embedded in the fabric of our GATE kiddos because it's so amazing. The kiddos, again, participate in a differentiated activity. They cultivate creativity and critical thinking because there is a prompt that they address. They get hands-on experience in creating an art piece and then bringing that art piece to a culminating, it's kind of like going into an art museum because the students, it's no competition. They're just there to show off their pieces, and they get to engage in discussion with their peers. This is an amazing opportunity that comes. It culminates in May, so typically the spring semester, like April and May, is when the students participate in the district-wide artistic expressions opportunity. I also wanted to share some other district-wide events that are not necessarily GATE only, but from my experience, I notice more often than not, the students who participate are gifted kiddos. So we have the math field day, and this is basically a math competition. Usually that's in March. We have the robotics competition. That's usually in April. And then there's instrumental music and honors orchestra. Usually that culminates in March as well. So we like to have specific GATE activities that are invitation only for our GATE students, but other district-wide events that our department supports and sponsors that are available for all kiddos. And with that, I am going to hand it back on over to Ms. Fox, who can talk to you a little bit more about the nuances of giftedness. And if you have any kiddos nearby, I'm sure they'll glean some information from this. So Ms. Fox.
Thank you. So little disclaimer before I begin. Understanding giftedness as a topic can honestly take a lifetime. So what we're kind of tip of the iceberg getting at here this evening is more of an introduction. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Next slide, please. So this is one of my favorite slides. And if your screen is small and you can't really read it, I'll go ahead and read it for you. There's a image of the kid falling asleep reading a ton of books, what my non-gifted friend thinks I do, what my family thinks I do or will do is, run the world. What society thinks I do, what my teachers think I do. And my favorite part is the last one, which is quite small, but it says, I have one rule. If I am wrong, oh my gosh, I can't even read it. It's so small. I have one rule.
I have two rules.
I have two rules. Sorry. See, I can't even read it myself. My screen's so small. Sorry. I have two rules. First, I am never wrong. Second, if I am wrong, refer to the first rule. And the reason that I love this so much is it really does speak to, there is so many assumptions of what gifted kids are or who they will be or what they enjoy. But really at the heart of it, they are unique. They are themselves. They are, your kiddos. Next slide, please. And that being said, I'm not sure if you picked up on it, but in some of the earlier slides, for example, the district events, you may have noticed these blue bubbles in the corner where there are different areas of giftedness. So not every child is intellectually gifted, and not every child is going to excel academically. Not every child is artistic. And so here in GUSD, what we really strive for is to support the 5 areas of giftedness as globally as we can. Oftentimes in schools, it centers naturally around the intellectual and the academic gifts. But like, for example, Ms. Arjoyan was saying, like the artistic showcase, that really speaks to a lot of our kids who have artistic gifts, or, the invention convention. They're very creative. So we really want to honor that all of our kids have different interests, different gifts, different skills in various areas. So that being said, the thinking that if my child is been identified as GATE, then that means that they're going to be good at all these things. That may be true. You may have a very well-rounded child with many gifts and many abilities, lots of potential. But more often than not, you'll have where they really excel in a couple areas. So they may really truly be gifted or have their potential in, for example, academics, or intellectually they may have super high vocabularies, or they're able to get a puzzle like that type of thing. Or maybe academics is not their thing, but they are absolutely brilliant in the arts, right? So we want to honor that giftedness comes in different what's the word I'm looking for? Different.
It manifests itself.
Thank you. That's the word I was trying to think of. Appreciate that. That's why we're a good team. It can manifest in different potentials. So although we just talked about how kids are very unique and they all have different, skills and talents, etc., there is definitely some areas that over years of research around this, we have identified some common characteristics of gifted kids. Your child or you even may really look at this list and be like, oh yeah, definitely, I can see that. Or maybe just one or two. But I know that, for example, my experience with gifted kids, they really are such amazing humans. They are quirky. They have a great sense of humor. They are able to have conversations with adults or peers in areas of expertise that, just blow your mind. Their ability to comprehend information. They're super, super curious, almost to a fault, where sometimes as adults, we're like, oh my goodness, please stop asking questions. But we do want to foster that. We also want to channel that energy in an appropriate way, right? So that it doesn't become like a complete obsessive thing, but we can be like, okay, you're really, really interested in dinosaurs. Let's help you find out more about it. But also keep in mind that there's another world out there outside of dinosaurs that we can also find really cool things to learn about. They are usually very self-aware and sometimes very self-critical, unfortunately. That's one of the hallmark characteristics of a gifted learner, is that perfectionist trait. And we want to make sure that we teach them, like I mentioned earlier, the power of yet, that growth mindset, that no one is expected to be a perfectionist and that there is no perfectionism. Please hold just for just a second. My apologies. They were going to come work in my office and I asked them to please hold. Okay, as I was saying, gifted kids have these characteristics. And one of the things that I'm hoping that you will take away with this evening, as well as some of the work that we do with our educators, is distinguishing between a bright child and a truly gifted child. Because a lot of times they do present the same, right? So a bright child oftentimes is an excellent student. They work hard, they're diligent, they're the ones that keep their backpacks organized, and they are they're interested and very pleased with learning, which is amazing and wonderful. But a gifted learner may not present quite that way. For example, a gifted learner may be bored because they've already picked it up that second time that they saw that information, whereas a bright child may take 6 to 8 times of repetition. They really do enjoy learning and they really are curious, but oftentimes they want to do that on things that they are interested in. So as educators, we try to use that interdisciplinary cross content so that, yes, you're really interested in dinosaurs, but you also need to learn math, my friend. So we're going to weave in some math into your learning of dinosaurs so that you're still learning about all the content areas. That's just one example. And then I did want to once again note that they can be very detail oriented and they have a huge heightened sense of justice. If you know any of your kiddos that are like, that's not fair, this is right, this is wrong, they have a very black and white sense of what is right and wrong in the world. And they do worry about global issues. And they, you know, those are things that matter to them. They have very deep, strong feelings and they feel all those feels in a very real way. So as adults, honor that. I think one of the worst things that we can say to them is it's not a big deal. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine. You know, yes, we want to validate that they do feel those feelings in a huge way and that they really do care about whatever it is that they're expressing. So one of the reasons for this behavior is a truly physical, actual reason, and that is asynchronous development. Asynchronous development essentially is in an ideal world, we would all develop as children, socially, emotionally, academically, physically, motor skills, all well-rounded. Oftentimes, a characteristic of gifted learners is that they develop asynchronously, which means, like in this example that you see on the screen, intellectually, a 5-year-old child may be on par with like their 12-year-old peers, but their physical or social or fine motor skills can be far below their peers. And so that kind of disproportionate mismatch of their development can make it tricky for them. And it can make it tricky for us to support them as well, because we see that they're super far advanced in one area, but then maybe not even at age level in others. So give them the grace of knowing like, hey, this is something that they are truly dealing with. And especially like, I don't know if you can see on the screen there, like socially, for example, this child is intellectually on par with 12-year-olds as a 5-year-old, but then is almost like a 3-year-old socially. So sometimes that's tricky for them to get along with their peers. And so that's where we come in as adults to give them that social emotional support of how to navigate that. So here's some examples, specific examples of asynchronous development. The ones that I want to kind of highlight is, as an educator, for example, I might have a student who can read at a 9th grade level as a 3rd grader or a 4th grader, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should be giving them 9th grade level curriculum or books, because that may not be appropriate for them developmentally. Socially, there may be content in there that's not appropriate for a younger child. So we want to really try and balance that as not to accelerate them too far above where they're at because of that asynchronous development. We want to make sure that it's developmentally appropriate for them, but we can give them the content that gives them the rigor as well. The other thing I wanted to say before you move on, sorry, Anita, as we mentioned earlier, there's different manifestations of giftedness. So just because your child may be really, really off the charts in math doesn't necessarily mean that they will be good in all subjects. They may not necessarily like it, but it also might be that they're not ready for it either. So give them the grace in terms of, hey, yes, you're gate, but that doesn't mean that you're gate in all things. And I recognize that you may struggle in some areas, even though you excel in others. So how do we help them? Well, we focus on their strengths. We talk to them. You guys are taking that first step here right now by being here, learning about it. Maybe some of you have your kiddo sitting next to you, listening. Talk to them about what it means to be gifted, and be real about that. The expectations for their potential are not, give them realistic expectations, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That we are trying to build them as scholars and reflective learners and whole humans, rather than, oh, now you have that gate identification, you are going to go on and be the next, billionaire ruler of the world. It's far more important that we raise them to be happy, healthy, whole learners. That being said, feed their passions, though. Give them opportunities to find out more about whatever they're curious about. See if you can get them to find peer groups with kids that are either intellectually on par with them or close to it, or maybe they have similar interests. A mental match is often more important than a age match. So, and what I mean by that is, socially, they might get along really well with younger kids. Cool, let them have that opportunity to get along with other kids and play with them. But they also need that mental stimulation. So have them interact with maybe experts in the field or older kids who might know a lot about dinosaurs. Or I keep using the dinosaur example, but on that note of finding their people, so to speak, finding their people is sometimes really hard for gifted kids. And so there's a lot of awesome books out there with gifted main characters or really unique characters that your child might really empathize with and identify with. So this is actually a hot link in the slide deck, that it has a huge resource of books that you can maybe find a good one for your kiddo. And then connect with other families, connect with your kid, connect with your educators. It takes a village, and sometimes we notice things that they don't, or vice versa, and we want to keep that dialogue open. So on that note, keeping the dialogue open, it's important that we recognize our kids have their big feelings, their their sense of justice, right and wrong. Perhaps they're feeling like they don't fit in, those kinds of things, which may or may not be the case, but we want to honor that and have them based on facts, not myths about gifted students. And what I mean by that is there's actually some research out there that's quite, it's been around for a long time, but it's really great. It's called the 8 Gripes of Gifted Students. And when I've done it with students and some adults, they have really identified with them. So I'll give you a couple of examples. No one ever explained what being gifted is about. Kids are like, what? Okay, so now I have a G behind my name in the grade book. So what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my life? Or finding friends may not be easy. Or, everybody teases me for being smart. Or people tease me because I, know too much about one thing. So it's a really good read and it's interesting. Have that open door for conversations, and it's okay if you don't feel like you're the expert. More than anything, you are their caregiver. You are the person, hopefully, that they can share these feelings with and talk to them about it. I think one thing that I know that I used to be guilty of until I realized how damaging it was to my own kiddo was saying like, you're so smart. Why don't you get it? What? Come on, you should do this. Like, what's wrong with you? Kind of attitude. Maybe I didn't say what's wrong with you, but the whole you're so smart, that gives them anxiety, whether we realize it or not, because they internalize that as, oh gosh, something's a little bit challenging for me. Why don't I get it? I'm supposed to be this brilliant, gifted child and things are supposed to come easy. No, that's not the case. We want them to know that challenge means you're learning and you're growing, and giftedness means potential. It doesn't mean guarantee. We're here to help you unlock your potential. So these are just some talking points that you might say with your kid. Everybody learns at different paces. Everybody has, strengths and different interests. Oh, so-and-so got a higher grade than you. That's okay. Maybe they're better at reading than you are today, but maybe tomorrow you're going to read a story that you're more interested in. Or, and I feel like a broken record, but it doesn't mean that you're going to know the answer to every question. And we don't want you to know the answer to every question. We want you to develop as a scholar, as an intellectual, as someone who is self-reflective about their learning and their growth, socially, emotionally, as well as academically. So really emphasize that power of yet and growing as a learner.
Thank you.
I talked a lot. I'm sorry, Anita.
It's good information. It's all good. And actually that leads us to the next thing that you can expect from us at the district level to support your kiddo and support you with their family engagement. So I'm going to skip this just really quickly to go to the next slide. This is the segue I needed. So we have Family Institute sessions that we host. They're hour-long webinars. They're presented by educational psychologist who focuses on giftedness, and she speaks about giftedness so passionately but so accessibly. So Christine Fonseca, perhaps you've seen the recorded webinars on our website, on our GUSD website, and if you haven't, I highly recommend you go take a look. Some of the things that Danielle was presenting about may seem like you don't know enough yet. Power of yet. You don't know enough about it yet, but these Family Institute webinars, they really do give you language to help you navigate how you're going to talk to your kiddos about this, how you're going to, what you want to know, what are some tools that you could use to help support your gifted students. So I highly encourage you to participate in the Family Institute webinars that most likely I will invite you to. And then I'll just go back to the slide. So there are ways that you can get involved to better understand programming and better understand what's going on with your kiddo and with the GATE program. So I highly encourage communication at the site level and district level too. We are here to support you and answer your questions. You can go to our district's website. I'm going to pat myself on the back and say I'm pretty good about updating and posting the recordings that we have and putting up information that you might find pertinent. So please visit our district website. Again, attend the GATE Family Institute sessions. They are informative and enjoyable. Reach out to your site GATE specialist. So every school site has a site lead. Actually, last week I posted all the information for the site leads on our website, so you can find that there too. So it'll say like Balboa Elementary, and it'll tell you who your site lead is, Jefferson Elementary, and it'll tell you who your site lead is. Reach out to your site specialist for you to get your questions answered, figure out how you can get involved. And I want to encourage most importantly, talking to your kiddos' teachers. Danielle did mention, like, if you see things that are strengths that your kiddo has or areas of growth, those are things you might want to communicate to your kiddos' teachers early on in the school year. It'll help alleviate a lot of the concerns or a lot of the just unknown for your teacher and for your kiddo. So please get involved that way. And then at our district level, we do also support our families through an advisory committee. This is an opportunity for parents and community members to come together and really provide an authentic voice to do really two things. One, provide advice and comment to this department, our department, on how to further develop district-wide GATE programming. It also helps us when it comes to our LCAP, our local control and accountability plan. It helps us to ensure that our GATE voices are uplifted and heard when it comes to like district-wide planning. And then with that, I do want you to know, again, at the site level, I encourage you when it comes to your kiddos day-to-day, reach out to your site teachers. You have a site GATE lead. You have a teacher specialist, you have administrators at the site. And then as far as the support at the district, you have Dr. Emila Hangarzadeh, he's the director of our department. My name again is Anita Arjoyan. I'm the teacher specialist with Equity Access, and I oversee a lot of the things GATE, if not everything GATE. And then Danielle Fox, who is my partner in our teaching and learning department. She supports teachers and schools as they help support your kiddos. So we are here to help. We are here to answer questions. And then I just wanted to share some resources. Again, this will all be posted onto our website because they're hot links. Actually, I think these are already posted to our website. Here are some national organizations, some state organizations, and local organizations you can just look through to better understand or perhaps get some of your questions answered about giftedness. And then I did want to share some great reads. So if you're you have so much time, right, parents? But if you do have time, these are some great resources for you to read and just better understand your kiddos. My recommendation, Parenting Gifted Children 101, and Emotional Intensity and Gifted. Students love that one because I have a very emotionally intense kiddo and I get strategies from there. And then The Hidden Gifts of the Introverted Child's a great one too. So as we would encourage our students to read to better understand, I encourage you also. With that, just in time. Okay, so your questions, I'm going to stop recording so I can post this onto our website without the questions. And then I'm going to take questions for 5 minutes. And then any other questions we don't get to, feel free, please, to email us or email me. Again, the recording will be posted onto our website and you can look at it at a later time. Stop recording. All right.